Hey, Seattle Kraken hockey fans, Erica Lindsay Ayala coming to you with another episode of Locked on Kraken. As you can probably tell, I am on the road, as I mentioned on social media, handling some women's hockey business, but was able to catch the game. We're going to talk about the adjustments that Dave Hakstol and the Seattle Kraken made to get this win against the Washington Capitals. We're going to break down some key statistics that might be indicative of things the Kraken will need to focus on for the remaining games this season. And I'm going to do my own little salmon toss. It's a figurative salmon toss. Don't have any salmon here, but all that and more coming up on Locked on Kraken.
You are Locked on Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, Seattle Kraken fans. As always, I want to thank you for making Locked on Kraken your first listen of the day. Erica Lindsay Ayala, your host, of course, of Locked on Kraken, coming to you live from my hotel room somewhere in Florida. But on my way home soon, for those who are in the United States or have family here, happy Thanksgiving week. We're going to continue on as there are definitely things to talk about for the Seattle Kraken, but I'll get into that a little bit later. First, let's talk about the good stuff, right? I mean, the Seattle Kraken get the win, so that's fantastic. But not only did they get the win, I think they made improvements in critical areas of the game. I went over some of that in my post-game reaction, so let's go to that. 37 saves by Philip Grubauer, 2 Seattle Kraken players. We had Adam Larson and Kalle Järnkrok get on the board, get their first Seattle Kraken goal, and Jared McCann opens the scoring for the Seattle Kraken with none other than a first period power play goal. My name is Erica Lindsay Ayala. Those are some of the top stories that are coming out of this 5-2 win over the Washington Capitals at Climate Pledge Arena. I said that this team needed to start off strong. They did concede the first goal of the game to Washington, but then they get the first power play goal, a much needed power play goal, 7th of the season for Jared McCann. The Seattle Kraken owned the second frame, and when things got tough and Washington was pushing back, you saw them come together. Philip Grubauer had a fantastic performance. We need more of that Philip Grubauer. Now that he knows what it feels like, now that this team knows what a team win feels like, the next step is consistency. Looking forward to it. We'll talk about it more on Locked on Kraken. So there you go, folks. 37 saves from Philip Grubauer. I mean, that's a pretty good performance. Of course, a lot of people made jokes, and even the Seattle Kraken leaned into the fact that Philip Grubauer was going against the Seattle Kraken's pick from Washington in Vanacek in net. And, I thought that was fun, something that obviously was fun on social media. But, let's put it this way. It would have been super embarrassing for this franchise if Vanacek and the Washington Capitals behind or in front of, I guess you would say, Vanacek got the win. Why do I say that? For those who don't know, and I'll try to find, I know I read a great story. I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll put it in the show notes once because we're live now. So once I go back to the show notes, but Vanacek was selected in the expansion draft, the goalie from Washington, by the Seattle Kraken. He's coming off of an injury and goes in the expansion draft to Seattle. Then, within a week's time, he's traded back to the Caps as the Kraken start seeing that the Philip Grubauer situation is going to be one that they can take advantage of. So I mean, Gruby needed a win. The Seattle Kraken needed a win, but the optics, and can you just imagine some of the stories that would have come out if the Seattle Kraken didn't get the win? But we don't have to talk about that because it's a non-issue. All right. So before we get into the stats, I want to give you what some of the players and what Dave Hackstall are saying. So Calle Järnkrok got his first goal of the season. But before I get into what Järnkrok and Larson said, let me also let you know that we had some line changes. And I'm going to get more into the strategy in the next segment, but I think it's important to talk about the line changes right now because we had a lot of different line changes here for the Seattle Kraken. And so the top line was Marcus Johansson, Alex Wenberg, and Jordan Eberle. Then you had Jaden Schwartz on the left side, Calle Järnkrok on the right, and then Yanni Gourde in the middle. And then we had Tanev McCann back to center and Jonas Donskoy. And then you had Donato, Geeky, and Blackwell. So what we heard from Dave Hackstall after the game is particularly about Schwartz, who, again, I'll go over stats in the next segment, but he talked about Schwartzy and wanting to capitalize on what Schwartz does best, and he felt that having him on that line with Gourde and Järnkrok was going to allow him to play that game close to net, down low, and I think that paid off dividends. Also, from a defensive perspective, that's a really good line. And again, we'll talk about some of the stats in the next segment. But I like this change. First of all, we needed something. Something's got to give, right? I suggested personally that they use morning skate and simulate the first two periods. That was my suggestion, but I'm not an NHL head coach, and some of that was more just for comedic relief, so we're not crying ourselves to sleep. But anyway, I like these changes. And although I love Schwartz and Eberle together, they've seen success. I liked that the Seattle Kraken media, the beat reporters, asked a great question, which I think is fair, and asked if some of breaking up Schwartz and Eberle was also to get other people going. Again, I'm going to talk about stats a little bit later. We'll get into Dave Hackstall's response. But before we close out this segment, here are some of the things that the players said. Calle Järnkrok, it felt good. It was a great team win. He also said that the success in this game, as well as success moving forward, is going to be about keeping it simple and winning every shift, said Järnkrok. And if they do that, if the Seattle Kraken can do that, then good things will happen. And then he closed out his availability, Järnkrok did, saying, quote, "We got sick and tired of losing games," to which, of course, everyone laughed. It was good to hear folks, including the players, having a good, hearty laugh and just enjoying the moment. What did Grubauer say after the game? He talked about, and Hackstall mentioned this as well, they also mentioned this in the post-game Root Sports. They mentioned that people were making the right plays at the right time. Certainly defensively. I want to get into block shots next segment, but also goal scoring. That's what Gruby is saying. He also, though, said that the guys in front of him did a good job of boxing guys out. I've been talking about this defensively, right? There's too much space, wide open space, right down the slot in the danger zone that the Seattle Kraken concede. Some of that is because they're giving up rushes, but other times there's guys just not moving people out of Gruby's space. Got to do that. So I loved that. Gruby also said everybody wants it. And he made sure to clarify, not that they didn't want it before, just to be clear, but he said there's a difference between working hard and working smart. And I thought that was a fantastic quote because it encapsulates and epitomizes everything that has been the issue prior. gripping the stick too hard, overthinking it, and doing things just to show that you're being productive, air quote, as opposed to actually being productive. So I love that quote. Just a few more before we get into the next segment. Another fun quote, you might have seen this circulating on social media, the fan base. There's a reason why the Seattle Kraken retired the number 32, and it's because of you, the fans. And I love that every single person talked about that. We're definitely going to get into that in the final segment of today. But hold fast and stay true, right? That's what we believe in, the depths. And you heard everyone, literally everyone that hit the microphone for the Seattle Kraken talk about that today. Last thing before we get into a deeper dive on stats coming up next on Locked on Kraken, there was no sag in our game. That's what Dave Hackstol said after they conceded the first goal. No sag in our game. They stayed focused, held fast, stayed true. That's what the Seattle Kraken did, and that made all the difference. So we're going to get into it, especially a little bit more from Dave Hackstol and Philip Grubauer coming up next. I want to do a deeper dive into the stats that paid off for the Seattle Kraken, and then if they can replicate that. They've got a big game with Carolina coming up this weekend, so they can't get full on stuffing and whatnot because they've got some work to do. But is it feasible? Is it even possible for this team to continue on this trajectory? We're going to talk about it coming up next on Locked on Kraken. But now I'm going to tell you about a way that you get your TV together. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, and you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and then you've got your best friends log in for all the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love and without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together, and that is DirecTV Stream. And it brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, your favorite movies, your favorite shows, all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another device ever again, and the best part, no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. That's DirecTV Stream. You can find out more information on directtv.com. And remember that a compatible device is required and content may vary by package. All right, we got that in the books. You know how to get your TV together. We're going to make sure it's all good. As always, I want to thank you for making Locked on Kraken your first listen. I know we got some people that are watching live. I really do appreciate all the support that you give as I have this wild and crazy schedule. I'm streaming from my hotel here. But let's get into the stats. I am an eye test person through and through. We talk about it all the time on the show. Watching this game, the intensity seemed different, looked different. As much as I could feel it through the screen, it felt different. And that's what I just told you Dave Hackstol talked about as well. There was no sag in our game. He felt very good. Not only did they close out the first period by getting a critical power play goal. That was the first goal by Jared McCann. I talked about it in the first segment and on social media. If you watch the post-game video that I did, I talked about that's huge for this Seattle Kraken team. We have talked intensively about how terrible the power play has been. The Seattle Kraken had one power play in this game. They had one power play goal. That's progress. Now, should they be drawing more penalties? That's an argument one way or another. But they got a power play goal. We're going to take that baby steps. You get one, you get one power play goal. Another thing Dave Hackstall really liked about closing out that first period in particular is that they ended the period and then went into the second for a little bit on the penalty kill. So we're talking special teams here, people. The Washington Capitals in this game had 4 power play opportunities. You know how many power play goals they had? Ooh, 0. Perfect penalty kill for the Seattle Kraken. Dave Hackstall said that was critical in closing out the first period. And then it goes back to something that Grubauer was saying. I told you earlier in the show that he said it's about doing the right things at the right time, and he specifically talked about blocks. The Seattle Kraken had 12 blocks in this game. It was 12 blocks, only 7 blocks for Washington. You heard Grubauer talk to the media about getting into the slot, being in good defensive position. Oh my God, I loved it. I love hearing that. I loved to see it. They looked better defensively. They looked like they were confident. They looked like they were coordinated, They looked like they were communicative. Those are all things that are critical. And you know what? I told you we're going to get into, can it last? Will it last? If I had to pick one thing, and I'm going to get into this also with my 3 keys, but I'm going to give this to you now because you know how I feel about defense. That's non-negotiable. That type of team defense is non-negotiable for this Seattle Kraken team to be successful. Period. Point blank. You heard me say it. I want all of that and more of it. That's the defensive team that this team was allegedly supposed to be built on. They need to get back to that. And it wasn't just coming from the defenders, which is what I love. Schwartz got so much love from his teammates, from his coach, for doing what Grubauer said, doing the right things at the right time. Let's go over his stats real quick. He had 1 goal, 3 assists, and he was one of the players that had a block in this game, one of the 12. But it's that critical play. There were a handful of critical plays where you see Schwartz putting his body out on the line that directly led to that empty net goal to completely solidify this win for the Seattle Kraken. If you're doing that when the other team has their goalie pulled in a tight game in the 3rd period, that's what we need to see. This team says they're going to be about leadership, about character, about hard work. That's what it is right there. Schwartz had a fantastic game. He played the way that we were told the Seattle Kraken team was built, and that is non-negotiable. That type of team defense, good defense, and it wasn't just Schwartzy, but I'm giving him love right now because it's an empty net goal. The team's up 1. How many times, though, have we seen this team blow a lead? Have we seen this team strike within 1 goal or even tie the game, and then 30 seconds later they give up a goal? So yeah, that's critical. That's critical right there. And the fact that they did that throughout the game, one of the more complete games that they had, love to see it. All right, so we talked about blocks. I talked about the penalty kill. Shots on goal did favor the Capitals, but this is where Groovy, take a bow, buddy. 37 saves. 37 saves, let in 2 goals. Grubauer had a fantastic game. I believe it was Allison Lucan, maybe the second intermission, talked about rebound control. Now, when you have the team that is keeping bodies out of the danger zone, out of the slot, and you have your goaltender with great rebound control, good things happen. You can win the puck battles, you win the possession game, if those 2 things happen to be occurring, or happen to be happening sounded weird, right? That's weird. Anyway, happen to occur at the same time. If those 2 things are happening, that is good hockey. That means that everyone is bringing what they have. They're working smart and not necessarily working hard just for the sake of working hard. I loved it. It's hard for me to say if this was the best game that Seattle had. Perhaps the better way to say it is that this might have been the most resilient game that the Seattle Kraken had. And, they've come back. They've scored. They've equalized. They've put up, a 5 spot before. But I'm not even talking about that. Because the Seattle Kraken, the game that I saw them play is fighting to be consistent
in their game. They weren't reacting as much to what Washington in this case was doing. They were maintaining the tempo that they wanted. They were getting the looks that they wanted. They were playing the defense that they wanted to play. Not what they had to, but what they wanted. That's what I need. That's what I mean when I say unleash the Kraken. Just not release the Kraken, but like unleash the Kraken. That's the type of game that this team is capable of. Are they going to win every game? No. No. But should they be losing the way that they have been? No. They're better than that. And this game proved it. This game, they played against, Washington didn't have all their players. That's sports, baby. That's sports. You want to talk about tough noogies? How many players do we have in COVID protocol for the opener before going on a road trip? Listen, does that factor in? Of course it does. However, every team has to deal with that. The Seattle Kraken focused on their game, and they focused on what they needed to do individually, because Gruby needed to show up. I've been talking about that. And then as a team. And they held each other accountable. And I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the changes, Dave Hackstol did some good things too. He said about that Gord Yarncroke Schwartz line, he said Schwartzy was in his office tonight. I loved it. I love to see it. And it paid off. Yarncroke gets his first goal. Good changes by the coaching staff. I don't know if they actually simulated 2 periods, although I'm still open to it. The team felt good about it. And again, what did I just say earlier in the episode? They felt the fans. Listen, if you listen to any athlete right now, they are talking about the difference of playing in empty arenas because of COVID and returning to fans and how much it makes a difference. So coming up next, I'm going to get into that. The fans. The importance of the fans, the importance of playing at Climate Pledge Arena, trying to snatch back that home ice advantage. That's coming up next on Locked On Kraken. But first, we're headed over, as soon as I can see my screen, there it goes. We're going to talk about Built Bar. It's the American version of Thanksgiving. Regardless of how you might feel about a lot of things and the politics of it, it's good to give thanks to the people that you love and that you honor. Family, friends, whatever the case is. And it's also a perfect time for a Built Bar. You're going to be running around, catching up with all those people, Friendsgiving, Thanksgiving with the family, with the children if you have them. God bless them if you do. But it's a lot of energy. And although there's a lot of food around Thanksgiving, you still got to keep your energy up. And so sometimes it's nice to have a little snack. But why just be, snacking with all the wrong stuff when you can focus on something that's low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high in protein, not to mention 100% covered in chocolate. So it's a great option for when you're hungry. It's a great option for when you're trying to stay laser focused on your Black Friday deals, which really started like 2 months ago, it feels like. You know what I'm saying? What are we even talking about? Anyway, there also are some fantastic new flavors over at Built.com this season. So when you head over to Built.com, you get yourself ready for Thanksgiving or beyond, because the holiday season has officially started as we close out the year. We want to make sure that you get a very special deal. So we're giving you 15% off your first, or not your first order, but any order at Built.com when you use promo code LOCKED15. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. As I always say, happy snacking. All right. The fans. Gruby, fantastic game. Schwartz, amazing game. But for me, if I'm giving out the Plush Salmon toys, it's the fans. I've been pretty hard on the Kraken. I told you I would. I don't know if some of you remember, but I told you I'm a New Yorker through and through. And if we're nothing if not honest when it comes to our sports teams. Sometimes we have a little fun at our own expense, but I'm going to keep it real. And you know what? I appreciate it because I think the fan base, for the most part, has been having fun with, like, this is terrible, but we still love it, and we're still here. And you know what? The players have felt that. There's not one player that hit the podium post-game yesterday that didn't talk about the fact that they noticed they got their butts handed to them by Colorado. Handed to them. And the energy that they felt, obviously primarily in the third period, because that's when we got to hear Lithium. The energy that they heard in CPA, Climate Pledge Arena, for that game, proved to them, what the heck are they going to sound like when we actually win again? They knew that the fan base was going to be there for them, and that made all the difference. It allowed them, using that piece of data, that piece of information, allowed the Seattle Kraken to settle in, to remind themselves that they need to show up for themselves, for their teammates, and for the fans. And you know what? That's the good stress, right? Or the good pressure. Was it eustress? There's like, psychology, took like a psychology class, and I think I know about stress, right? No. Anyway, the good type of stress, right? Or not even stress, but just like the expectation. You know that there are people that are expecting something from you, and that they're going to see you through it all, that they are going to be there in your corner. So Plush Salmons to you, hashtag number 32, because this fan base, and I said this last week, this fan base has been great to me. The team is feeling great about it. We're going to keep it real. We're going to have some fun at our own expense, but holding fast and staying true, that's what we're all about. And I love it. I love it. I love it for us. I love it for the team. I love it for what this means for the future. So I will own this. I did not expect Seattle to win. I did not expect Seattle to win against Washington. No way. Looking at the data, no way. No way. I did expect them to be better. And for me, that's the bigger win, because the title of this, if you're watching live, is Will It Last? Or something like, I don't even know what the heck I wrote, but something about, will the changes that the Seattle Kraken last? And for me, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I hope that we're getting closer to some consistency. These lines seem to work really well. I hope that the Seattle Kraken, like Callie Yarncrook told us, are truly tired of losing. And not, I mean, you're going to lose games. You're going to lose games, but they had to be tired of losing the way that we had been losing. Badly, and not playing to their potential. I do hope that we have put that to bed. I hope we put that to bed. Gruby, this is what we need from you. We talked about how much rest Grubauer needs, statistically speaking. He was not quite in that 2 full days of rest, but he hit his numbers. He hit his save percentage of when he is at his optimal, I should say, rest. A 9.49 save percentage. But again, it was the rebound control. And I think he played well and could do his best because what was happening in front of him? Defense. Guys giving up their bodies. Sacrificing their bodies for blocked shots. Was it Yarncrook, I think, on a PK? Had a really great block. This was a good game. If they lost this game, I still would have felt that this was a good game. But they did the things they needed to win. Will it last? I don't know. I hope we're not seeing too many changes to the roster. At least not since this has proven to be effective. You're going to have players injured. You're going to have matchups that you want to see. But maybe splitting up Eberle and Schwartz is a good thing. All right, so my salmon toss is to you, the fans, to Philip Grubauer. And you know what? I'm going to give, I was tempted to give it to Schwartzy, but I'm going to change it up. Dave Hackstall, I'm going to toss a salmon to you in like a loving way, not in a like way. Maybe that comes later. Dave, I appreciate you doing what you needed to do. You and your coaching staff doing what you needed to do and making some changes. And it showed off. Full stop here. Wasn't expecting Washington to come out so flat and sloppy, but full credit. Listen, you got to take advantage, right? Other team doesn't show up, not our problem. The problem is when we don't show up. And that did not happen. That did not happen. Yes, Washington was flat. If we played them tonight, would it be the same result? Who the heck knows? But that's why we play the games. I thought it was a good game for Seattle. And even if they had lost this game, I'll take it. So, Dave, I don't have a real plush salmon, but I'm waving it and I'm throwing it to you. I like that you were able to make adjustments because I was wondering, some of the adjustments, I was wondering. But I'll give it to you here. That's going to do it for this show. I'm headed back home to see my family. For anyone else traveling for the holiday, especially here in the United States, I wish you safe passage. I will be back tomorrow. I should not be back on my cell phone, but who knows? Either way, we'll be back here for another episode of Locked on Kraken. I'm having so much fun. I'm feeling all the love. I hope you're feeling it too. Yes, exactly. Hopefully we stick with some of these adjustments. They appeared to work, and I think they were made for the right reasons. Which is why I also like them. Okay? Let's stick with it. Hold fast. Stay true. Let's go Kraken. That's the end of the show. But remember, we've got plenty of shows on the Locked On Podcast Network, including Locked On Bets. You got your boy Q. You got Lee Sterling. It's available anywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can also stream, of course. Exactly. This was a good one. Now let's make it stick. This is where the work comes in. This is where the consistency, we build the character, we build the consistency. That's what I want to see. Hey, Jeff, good to see you. I know you've been listening even since before I was doing Locked on Kraken. Kudos to you, my friend, to all of the Seattle Kraken fans. Like I said, I'm tossing one of those plush salmon over to you. This was a good win. It felt good. And now the next thing is to build that consistency. And it starts with us as well. Hold fast. Stay true. Let's go Kraken. You did it. You'll love to see it. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Enjoy the holiday. I'll catch you again soon.